Hey, it's the Graveyard Girls. Welcome to episode 2.
Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed episode 1,
Oh, God.
or at least long enough to come back for episode 2. So I hope this is going to be another good one.
It's a true crime one.
Another true crime. Obviously, we don't discuss the cases beforehand, although we have discovered a brief mention of the names of us that we've discovered we both have a Charles.
Yes,
So yeah, we're going to dedicate this episode to Charles.
All the Charleses out there.
And hopefully it's another good one. Like I said, another 2 true crime.
Mm-hmm.
Mine's a bit of a tragedy as well.
Mine's on Valentine's Day.
Oh.
Okay. But it's also, again, mine's also linked to, I guess, folklore. It's a witchcraft. Or
this is you. Okay, I'm sold already.
Supposed witchcraft murder.
Oh, okay. I'm sold. Either way, you've mentioned witchcraft now, so I'm sold.
I do feel a little bit bad because it's an old man, but it's fine.
Yeah,
No, it's not fine.
so-
It's not fine. It's not fine. But no children die.
Okay. I mean, to be fair, I don't really like children, so that's no loss to me.
But I don't really want to cover deaths of children.
Okay, you'll have to leave that one to me then. I can cover a few of them.
Okay. That's the one where we need aftercare, right?
Possibly. Depending on how emotional you are, mine's a bit sad, so I suppose it depends how emotional you are about things.
Well, I am a crybaby, so...
Yeah, I feel like maybe this one, I've got to read a letter as part of this one, so
I love letters.
it might make you a little bit, not necessarily teary, but
It'll make me teary.
yeah, I think it's quite emotional what he's written. Like I'm normally a bit like emotionally constipated, but even when I was reading it back over, I was like, oh, it's actually a bit sad. So yeah, there's a letter, and I had to include it because it's a big part of the case.
Okay.
But yeah,
Are we
quite
ready
sad.
to begin?
I'm ready to begin. If you are.
I'm ready.
Okay, so for today's case, this one is the summer house shooting and the murder of Caroline Mary Lord.
Caroline Mary Lord.
Yeah.
Okay.
In 1908.
1908.
Okay, so this is where Charles comes in. I'll give you a bit of family background like I did last time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Charles Lord came from a military family and obviously naturally followed his father and joined the army himself. He entered into the Royal Engineers at the age of 17. He travelled various parts of the British Empire, took part in things like the rearmament... oh, God. He travelled various parts of the British Empire and took parts in things like the rearmament... I can't even say the word. I can say it in my head.
Rearmament.
Yeah.
It's a strange word.
Yeah, it's like obviously rearming.
Yeah, rearming.
Yeah, okay. You all know what I mean. Of the fortress at Gibraltar, and he helped supervise the reconstruction of the household cavalry barracks at Windsor. So, quite an important man. Mm-hmm. He's had really up there. So, in 1875, Charles marries Caroline Mary Hartley. She obviously then becomes a lord. From Cockermouth, in which is now in a part of now known as Cumbria, but it wasn't Cumbria back then.
Sorry, I did Google.
You know when you can see a word like that coming up and I'm not seeing it properly.
It's fine. We're mature.
Bottom. I've distracted myself now. Right. Charles eventually retired from the army with the rank of a major general, so he's really up there. He did very well for himself. By the time he's retired, he has 2 sons. The eldest is Charles, and the youngest is Eric. They move south to a place called Itham Knoll, and they live in a country residence just outside Itham Village, which is a few miles northeast of Sevenoaks. It lay adjacent to the Frankfield estate in the heart of the Kent countryside, surrounded by woodland, and is very close to Godden Golf Club, which was one of Charles's favourite sports to do in retirement.
Godden Golf.
Yeah.
Godden Golf, okay.
Yeah. So
they pray and golf? Or is that just...
I don't know. Maybe they worship. Maybe they're very engrossed in their golf. Like it's become something they worship. I feel like that's the sort of thing when men get retired. That's like they take up golf and it becomes life.
True. Yeah. It's just a weird name.
It is a bit.
Godden Golf.
Right. So Charles, it also served, so alongside his army career, he'd also served 14 years in his local council. So he's obviously a sort of man that's very involved in everything. Now, going back to his wife, Caroline, she was very active with like local charities. So I feel like back in that day she would have held like a lot of like, not tea parties, but like lunches, drawing up a lot of money towards like charitable events. And she like very much enjoyed like the social lifestyle. She was also sort of in charge of running the household staff. So they're obviously well to do if they can afford
They've got
household
staff.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they were held like in quite high status within the community. Despite being so prominent in the community, they led like quite quiet lives. I think they did well, but I don't think there were sort of maybe like gossips. They didn't reveal everything to everyone. I think they still sort of had a private life,
which is good. Yeah,
the impression I get. Both the sons also followed their father's footsteps and joined the army. However, the youngest, Eric, did die of fever whilst in Africa in 1903.
What's up?
How did I not notice this when I wrote the other day? You know Florence, from my last case, she served as a nurse in the South African War. Oh my god, I wonder if they met. Because he's died of fever, and I feel like going with the whole Lady of Lamp thing, like she would have possibly cared for him. Oh, I kind of hope they did. Maybe. I don't think there's any evidence of it, but I wonder if they did actually meet.
Ooh,
I wonder if my first case is linked to the second one. Oh, I kind of hope they have now. How did I not twig that when I was writing it down?
There's a few weeks apart, a few days apart of you researching. So yeah, maybe it didn't click.
Oh my god, I can't believe I just noticed that.
It's amazing.
It actually is. I hope they have actually met. Okay, I quite like that now. Sorry, I'm off on a tangent now, and I've lost my place. I actually really do hope they actually could have crossed paths. My cases could have been weirdly linked. Spy theory all over again.
Told you.
Actually, to be fair, that could work, because this is another
you.
unsolved one.
I told you.
Okay.
Florence is a spy.
How did I not make this connection before? Right, anyway, back to the case. By 1908, so this is like 5 years later after the son's death, the couple have now been married 33 years and were accepted into social and business, like within the business world of Kent's money class. So they were among the very wealthy.
Rich, yeah. Rich.
Yeah. So this is where then the murder comes along. Okay. So this is now the 24th of August in 1908.
Okay.
At around 2:20, the Major General and his wife decide they're taking a walk. He wants to go to the golf clubhouse to collect his golf clubs, and Caroline agrees to accompany him part of the way. Apparently I can't talk anymore. The couple are friends with Horace and Annie Wilkinson.
Horace.
I know, it's brilliant. There's some good names in this one. It's a good old man name. And they're the owners of the nearby Frankfield estate. And they have permission from this couple to use the footpaths which sort of cross across the woodland. And it's like a cut through to the golf club. So, and they have permission to use that whenever they want. So that's the way they're going.
Okay.
Not wanting to use the road, Charles and Caroline head towards Fish Pond Wood, which is bordering the thing. So I'm guessing they've probably avoided the road so as not to get run over. I'm going to roll with that. Probably a safer route.
It's probably a nicer route as well. You'd rather walk
more
that way. Yeah.
So I'll roll with that. And that's Fish Pond Wood is about half a mile away from their home. So
not far.
No, not a long walk at all. Once they follow the path through the woods, past the Wilkinson summer house. So their summer house is named La Casa.
The house?
The summer house.
The summer house.
The summer house.
Yeah, but Casa is house.
Okay.
The house.
Okay. Oh, okay, you're telling me what La Casa is. Okay,
the house.
Another blonde moment.
Casa is house.
Okay, thank you, Natasha. It's important to note that for later on.
Okay.
Because it's quite important in the case. And then they walk further on to a wicket gate, which is about another half a mile down the road. And once they meet that gate, they part ways. So basically, Charles is going on to collect his golf clubs. And the reason that Caroline is going back is because she was expecting there to be some visitors that she was going to meet for tea.
So they were just walking together.
Yeah, so she's walked part way with him.
Yeah.
He carries on, goes to the golf club. And it's said that the Major General then walks down the road the rest of the way from this. So I'm guessing the wicket gate must come out at a sort of a road somewhere, and then maybe across country the rest of the way. Probably goes. I imagine it's like a country lane.
Yeah. That's how I'm picturing it in my head.
That's how I imagine it. So, obviously, Carolyn turns back, and she's going to meet friends that are coming for tea at about 3 p.m. Then At 3:15, the Wilkinson's gardener, so the friends of the Lords, Daniel Kettle, hears 3 shots fired closely together. Nearby, another lady nearby called Anna Wickham, who is the wife of the Wilkinson's coachman, so another lady who's, I'm presuming, working as part of the household.
The staff, yeah.
Also hears these shots. Both were about 400 yards away from the source of the gunfire, but they're not alarmed by this because, let's be honest, it's out in the countryside, and even today, if you heard a shot, shooting, normal shooting, yeah. Like even with like the crow scarers sounds very similar to a gunshot, so you're not going to be massively alarmed.
I mean, I would be, but yes.
But I suppose if that's where you lived and that's
you're going to be
what you did for your job, you just sort of they ignored it. By the time the Major General would have been well away from the vicinity, and so he heard nothing, or so he's saying. Once he'd collected his golf clubs, he headed back home, but via the road this time. So not the same way. I think he went the roadway all the way home.
Yeah.
And he arrives back home about 4 p.m. This was later confirmed by a local vicar because part way he'd seen Charles and offered to take his clubs and him home. Charles sort of agreed with this, said, "Oh, I still want to walk, but if you don't mind dropping my clubs off back home." So I'm guessing this must be a regular thing he does because it sounds a bit weird to me, but maybe that's just how friendly they were. I feel like it's got quite a high status in the community, and I imagine it's a relatively small village in my head.
Yeah, that's what I'm picturing. Yeah.
So I feel like everyone's sort of friends with everyone, and you sort of help each other out. So that's the sort of vibe I'm going for in my head. So Charles continues to walk home, and he gets home about 4:30.
4:30.
Yeah. When he's arrived back home, he's greeted by a lady called Anna Stewart and her husband Frank. Now, these were the couple that Carolyn was supposed to be meeting back for tea, and the reason that she's meeting them is because they've just moved to the area. So sort of like she's inviting them in, like get to know the neighbours sort of thing. So
that's nice.
A friendly face. Yeah.
I think that's also showing that they are quite high up in the social.
You almost want to be in their circle.
Yeah. They know everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're going to come to them.
And that's it. I think it's nice. You're sort of welcomed into the community.
Yeah. And it's like they welcome you.
Yeah.
Everyone welcomes you.
And that's it. And if you're in with them, you're in the club.
Yeah, you're in the club.
Anyway, so Charles obviously rocks up back home. He was surprised to see them waiting outside, but not concerned by Carolyn's absence.
Oh, no.
So he sort of lets them in and entertains them for 10 minutes, thinking, like, his wife's, I don't know, maybe sorting out the household staff, arranging some tea, biscuits, I don't know what they're having, cake, maybe.
I don't like where this is going.
I think you know where it's going.
I know it's going, I don't want it.
So after 10 minutes, he sort of apologises and says, "Look, I'm going to go and have a look for her." And Alice, being polite as she is, they offer to accompany him. The pair of them leave the house about 5 p.m. And after a further 15 minutes, Alice makes her excuses, making suggestion of having her own guests to return to. So almost like, I would have only been here for... I imagine in my head it's like, I was only popping by for tea, so I would like to come and help you, like, carry on looking, but I actually need to get back to my own guests.
So it's like 2 hours later than they should have been.
Oh, I don't know, about an hour and a half, I think.
Hour and a half, yeah.
So they basically, Alice and her husband, they return home. The Major is obviously a little bit concerned, so he's carried on looking. He decides he's going to continue looking for his wife. So he goes back down the road and he takes a route that passes the Crown Point pub and turns down Church Road, which eventually brought him back to the wicket gate at which he'd left Caroline. So at first I was like, why is he not going back the same route? But then thinking, oh, maybe that's another route. So he's wondering maybe that's the way she decided to go home. So he's explored another route. I thought, okay, that justifies it.
It makes sense.
That makes sense to me.
And see if, like, he spots anyone on the way. See if they've seen his wife,
Yeah. So once he gets back to where he left her, he then does decide to return home by following the exact route that they travelled together in the afternoon. As he reaches the summer house, the Wilkinson summer house, which they pass, which is hidden from view right until like the last minute. But on the way back, it's sort of round a corner. So as he reaches a curve in the bridle path, he could now clearly see what is the body of his wife laying at the foot of the veranda. So that's near the summer house.
No.
As soon he realises it's her, like as soon as he approaches her, and he says he knows instantly that she's dead.
No.
Her face was covered in blood, and she was cold to touch. And it's worth noting that a hat lay like several feet away.
Yeah.
Charles ran to the stables back at the Wilkinsons' house, obviously alerted people, where he, so he went, back to Horace Wilkinson's house, where he found Wilkinson's butler, Herbert.
Herbert.
I know there's some great names in this, I absolutely love it. Like traditional old man,
Yeah.
brilliant. Herbert followed the Major General back to the summer house to see for himself, like, the nature of, like, Carolyn's wounds, while some others on the ground fetched a policeman, and that was P.C. Marsh. The local doctor, Mr. Mansfield, then obviously came out. He examined the body where it lay at around 7:40 p.m. So it took a while to get there. They're all on foot.
Yeah, that's some time difference, definitely.
Only about an hour and a half, to be fair. It's not a massive amount of time. From where he's lost her, it's sort of about, what's it, 3:30, 4 o'clock. He doesn't realise she's missing until sort of 4:45. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not a massive amount of time, but there is a time discrepancy. So obviously the doctor gets there about 7:40, and she's been shot in the head twice.
Oh.
One bullet had entered just below the left eye,
Oh.
and another had entered behind the right ear and had left powder burn, so suggesting it's quite close. Yeah. The doctor also believes that Carolyn might have been struck from behind before being shot, so maybe like to disarm her and then shot her. Although I feel like if you've got a gun, why not just shoot in the first place?
Yeah.
But it's worth noting this doctor's points because it might come into sort of question later.
Can you imagine finding your wife?
I know, it would be vulnerable. I mean, I suppose it depends how much you like her.
But... I mean, I'm kind of emotional about this one. I'm just like,
I do, especially as the story goes on, because it gets a bit more sad. I'm not going to lie.
Okay. Gonna need some aftercare with this one.
Yeah, so the glove on her left hand has been removed and laid inside out on the ground, which is a bit odd. 3 rings, later confirmed by the Major General, had been removed from her finger. So I'm guessing that explains the glove.
It takes the glove off.
And the pocket of her dress was ripped open. So maybe, again, they tried to grab something else. Mm-hmm. A purse is also missing. The body was then moved and placed into the bedroom of her home. So I'm guessing it's like they were sort of laid her to rest. And I don't know, but more like in the old house, like an open casket. I feel like they've sort of gone for that, but...
Yeah. And plus, I don't think would there be ambulances? Or unless the ambulance won't come until the next day.
Maybe. And like, they already know she's dead. It's like, not like they can help her.
True.
Oh. So obviously by that point, it's getting quite late. So they're running out of daylight. Even though it's August, it's light for a bit longer. Yeah. They're running out of daylight. So it's not until the next morning that the bloodhounds were sent to the scene in a bid to try and like track the culprit. This was unsuccessful. They didn't pick up any trace.
I'm not surprised.
Obviously, with the ranking of the Major General, Scotland Yard took over the case the same night.
Oh, Scotland Yard are in my case as well.
Ooh.
Oh.
It was going to be a difficult one to solve, as there's no witnesses. It was a very isolated location, and no motive was established. Only suggestions that it could have been a robbery. So the police, the only sort of motive that the only motive that the police are like offering up is that it was like a robbery by vagrants or maybe like a passing homeless person. Like it was like an opportunity.
But like you said, the greenhouse, the veranda is very hidden until the last second.
That's it. So this is where later on, when we get to an inquest, things slightly change a little bit.
Okay.
The police didn't believe it much in it being something, in it being a person called a hop picker with a gun who had carried out the murder. Now, a hop picker is basically, hop is a type of crop. Mm-hmm. And a hop picker was basically a seasonal worker that was employed to pick this at the time. So they're saying like it could have been like again, it works with the whole travelling idea, but the police weren't really keen on that it was just a seasonal worker, an opportunity sort of means. So it was, especially hop picking, like that's popular in Kent. It's something that's associated with that sort of area and the season as it was. But it's also worth noting that there wasn't an amount of those seasonal workers that year because the crop had been poor. So it's like they've not really got anything to base it off. Everything's there's not really a motive. No. There's no evidence. They're just witnesses.
Trying to,
Yeah. So despite the fact there was little evidence, it was suggested that the killing was actually well planned and executed. So possibly professional or at least premeditated. Like there's some thought gone into it. The first inquest opened at the Lords home on the 26th of August. So obviously that's not necessarily usual, but I feel like they probably had quite a big home, so maybe that's where it was suggested happened. And it attracted a lot of attention.
Well, I can imagine it's the rich people of the village.
Yeah, well, they literally said that people attended from all over the south of England, which actually clogged the road with traffic.
Wow.
And the police were actually forced to restrict access even to the press. So even the press were restricted from being in the inquest and gathering information. There was literally I presume hundreds of people.
Are everyone just coming because it's such a gruesome thing?
I think it's more the status of the family.
Okay.
Because obviously Major General,
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. And I feel like the sort of society they were within, I feel like it might have grabbed quite a bit of attention. And it's something quite horrific as well. Cause
that's what I'm thinking. I don't want it to be like, oh, they're going to go gawp at the...
Yeah, I think it was like, oh my God, it's such a shock. Like, who would want to do that to someone? Like, if it's just a commoner, if you like, it's like, it's just like fighting over nothing. We're not really that interested unless it's like really butchered or something.
True.
I think the more common the person, the more gruesome they want the murder. Do you see what I mean? Whereas if it's someone important or high up in society, it doesn't matter if it's...
important because they're rich.
Yeah. It doesn't matter whether the murder's gruesome or... I mean, all murder's bad, but... whether it's like not a very bad murder, they don't care because it's more the person they're interested in.
Yeah.
That's the sort of the vibe I'm going with.
Okay.
Anyway, those that were lucky enough to get in, they'd listened to the testimony of the Major General as he explained to Coroner Buss the events leading up to the discovery. So basically he went over everything I've already discussed about where he parted with her, going back, seeing the others. They would have also heard from the witnesses to the sound of the gunshot, so the two workers on the Wilkinsons' household. Both described the first shot as sounding dull, like the bullet had hit something hard.
Oh.
Okay, so that's a point to make, worth noting for later on.
Is that the one that's close? Okay.
You'll find out.
Oh.
Then Dr. Mansfield gave his assessment of the murder scene. The coroner adjourned and decided to reconvene at the nearby George and Dragon Hotel on the 10th of September. So basically it was all getting a bit tense and emotional in there, and they just decided that was enough for the day. So they're going to have a second inquest. Between these inquests, Carolyn's body was carried by a horse-drawn hearse to Itham Parish Church through heavy rain, and she had a corsage of 10 carriages. Mm-hmm. She was laid to rest beside her son Eric, who had been obviously died 5 years earlier. And despite the fact that the weather was horrendous, there was a massive crowd coming to pay their respects. So she was obviously well liked, like very important.
God, I'm emotional. Why am I so emotional at that?
You're going to get worse in a minute. You wait till I read this bloody letter out. Obviously, then it came to the second inquest. There was still like a massive amount of public interest, but there'd been no progress in terms of like the police's investigation. One thing had to change though, and that was the view of how a death had occurred. Okay. Dr. Mansfield was still like of the view that she'd been struck in the head before being shot, which would account for her hat being found several feet away from her body.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I'm still going with this guy's sort of theory of it. However, in the second inquest, another guy comes forward, and he's a gun and rifle manufacturer called Edwin Churchill, and he was offering like a slightly different opinion. He, after examining the body and the bullets found in her head, he told the court that the first shot would have been fired from no more than an inch away, hence the powder burns.
Wow.
So, but no mention of her being hit over the head first.
But if it's that close, the hat's going to fly off.
Exactly. And that it had not, but that it hadn't penetrated the skull very far because it hit bone, which could be why the first shot was described as dull. Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. And it also, obviously, that's enough to knock her to the ground. It was said that that didn't kill her instantly, and so a second shot would have been fired from 2 to 3 inches away whilst she was on the ground, but over her body. And the bullets were from a revolver that could have been purchased for as little as £1. So again, a common murder weapon.
£1.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So that's obviously a murder weapon of the choice.
Of course, yeah.
At the time. So again, that these suspects, Paul, you've opened that right up.
Everyone.
So that goes back to the whole police of, it could be anyone.
It could be anyone.
Yeah, it could be. So the court then decided to accept this second guy, Edwin Churchill. They accept his version of event.
He understands guns more, which makes sense.
Yeah. But I'm still a bit...
But the other guy's a coroner.
But also, why did the first guy mention about her being hit over the head first? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's obviously evidence of saying like a blunt force thing, like with another weapon. So why was that not mentioned by the second guy? Because I feel like maybe just hitting her head on the ground alone might not have been enough to cause that injury. I don't know.
It might have been, but he's equating that to her hat being further away.
Yeah.
He's not saying there's an injury from that. He said the hat.
No, it said, I'm sure it said there was injuries to suggest that she's been struck in the head first. Yeah. Oh, it just says that he believes that Caroline may have been struck from behind before being shot. So I'm guessing there was some sort of injury that would corroborate that. He wouldn't have just...
Maybe.
I don't think you just throw it out of there. The only thing for me that makes the doctor a bit more credible is the fact he's an actual doctor.
He's a doctor, yeah.
And the other guy's just a gun expert.
Yeah.
So, I mean, together, they put a good case.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
not like it's varying opinions. Like, it's not like wildly different where one of them was like, yeah, she chased and ran for miles and she was shot somewhere else.
She wasn't shot in her head, they're not bullet holes.
Yes, she was stabbed with a knife instead.
Oh, God.
But yeah, anyway, back to the part. So the police obviously then have to give a bit of something to the court. So the police went on to explain how the murderer couldn't have hidden in wait in the summer house as it had been locked for up to 3 months with no sign of entry. Now, this is the only thing that throws me out a bit because it's summertime, it's August. Why has the summer house been locked up for 3 months?
Well, whose summer house?
The Wilkinsons.
So are they not there?
Yeah, they are, but they're another well-to-do family. They're friends with the Lords.
So who's saying it's locked up for 3 months?
So they would have got, I'm presuming, that from either the groundsman or the Lords themselves. But I find it a bit odd that we're in August.
Yeah,
and they've not used the summer house.
Yeah.
So I couldn't find the evidence for it, but unless the the Wilkinsons had maybe travelled away for the summer.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
And it had all been locked up. But I don't know, it's a bit of an odd thing for the police to come out with.
Yeah. No one's been here for 3 years.
It just seemed a bit odd.
Yeah.
The only other thing they did find was that there was some broken down heather and bracken, and it was a path away from the Wilkinsons' house into woodland, and that was suggested by police that was the escape route. However, there was heavy rain in the hours after the murder, so it destroyed any useful evidence, so no like footprints or anything like that. Sure. So that could have been kind of done by anyone, but it would suggest someone had fled in that direction.
Yeah, especially if there's a path right there. Why would you go not a pathway?
Yeah. So the stolen rings were never recovered. Obviously, the Major becomes a bit of a suspect. Three guns were taken from the Major General's home to be examined. None of them matched what was believed to be the murder weapon. The inquest was then closed without a resolution. This is where the tragedy doesn't end.
Oh, no. I'm going to cry. I'm going to cry.
Obviously, they've still got an older son called Charles, so the other Charles. At the time of his mother's death...
Charles didn't kill his mum, did he?
No.
Okay, good.
I don't think so. I don't think he could have. It would have been highly unlikely. If he did, he moved around quickly. Basically, at the time of his mother's death, he was travelling back after being stationed out in South Africa and was returning when he was notified of his mother's death.
Okay.
The Major General obviously waited for his son's return, but he decided that he couldn't be in the house any longer after his wife's death and puts the house, like the lease, up for sale. And on the 17th of September, so a couple of weeks, he moved in to stay with a good friend, Colonel Charles Ward. Another Charles. I told you there was lots of Charles in this. It's obviously a very popular name.
Charles.
And this is where the strategy sort of strikes.
I'm prepared.
In the early hours of the 18th, so he's only been with his friend an evening, after retiring to bed but being in good spirits, Charles writes a letter to Colonel Charles. Mm-hmm. And are you ready for the letter?
No.
This is where it's a bit sad. I don't get emotional, but I am slightly worried I might now.
Well, you're just going to look at me crying.
We're going to have to just not look at you. Okay. It says, "My dear Ward, I'm sorry to have to return your kindness and hospitality and long friendship in this way, but I'm satisfied it's the best to join her in the second life at once.
Oh, no.
As I can be of no further use to anyone in the future of this world, of which I am tired and in which I do not wish to live in any longer."
No.
I know it's horrible. I thought that my strength was sufficient to bear up against the horrible imputations and terrible letters in which I have received since that awful crime was committed, and which has robbed me of my happiness. And so it was for long and the kindness of sympathy of many friends that has kept me going. But somehow in the last day or two, something seems to have snapped. The strength has left me, and I care for nothing except to join her. So goodbye, dear friend. Yours affectionately, C.E. Lord.
Okay.
I know. Is it like why? I don't.
Why is there so much fucking hell?
It's
I'm
like
crying.
it's the nicest and sweetest letter, but also the most sad letter.
As soon as that first line, I was like, oh no.
I knew where it was going as soon as I read that line. So it obviously doesn't take a genius to work out what happens next.
No. Well, I don't think Charles is a suspect.
Yeah. Obviously, this is where I'll go on a little bit. So he died as he stepped in front of a train the following morning, in the early hours of the morning. The same day, his son arrives back home to discover the second tragedy of his family. So he's been informed of his mother's, expecting to get back, a bit emotional, and then he finds out his dad's committed suicide. It was suggested that Charles had felt driven to take his own life because of a number of letters he'd received after his wife's death accusing him of murder.
Oh.
Yeah. No new evidence came to light in the murder of Caroline, but there was one arrest. But it was kind of a botched attempt.
Yeah.
It was a botched attempt to solve the case, and in that, the police arrested a man called David Woodroof. That's a bit
Woodroof.
Woodroof. It's a bit of a mouthful. Right, okay, so he's a 60-year-old man. He's was educated in Little Thurlow in Suffolk, and he spoke 6 languages, so well-educated man. Yeah, and he's been married once. That's all the sort of information I could find on him. By this age, he's obviously 60. I'm guessing even though he's well-educated, he must have not had a brilliant job or for some reason hasn't worked for a while, because it was noted that he didn't have much money and was actually struggling to get by.
Okay.
He was arrested in Maidstone and appeared before Seven Oaks Magistrate on the 20th of September. Superintendent Taylor of Kent Constabulary, I can't say all those words together, told the court he had been arrested whilst already in custody for common assault. Woodroof pled not guilty and was defended by solicitor Mr. House. It's brilliant. It's great names. Where did they get these from? Woodroof and House. Who insisted that his client had been arrested simply because at some time in the past he'd owned a revolver. So there's very little evidence based upon it.
But if they're only £1, everyone.
Yeah, everyone can have a revolver. And also, I'm guessing the police are still working off the theory of robbery. He was a poor man, he couldn't get by, he's robbed the poor woman.
Yeah.
The court rightly and sensibly asked to see evidence corroborating the police's belief, and the police couldn't offer any, so the case was thrown out. So he's obviously not. So this is where suspect 2, technically the husband, who I do not think should be a suspect at all.
No.
Especially after the letter.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if you've killed your wife, committing suicide, it's, I don't know, maybe if he disappeared, that'd be a bit suspect, but I don't think you kill your wife and then kill yourself. Not write that note. Maybe kill yourself without leaving a note.
They seemed like they were happy because just that little walk. She's walking him to the little gate.
Just sort of do everything together.
And it's like,
That's
I
the
love
idea.
you. Yeah.
Well, this is where the whole idea for why people were accusing the husband.
He didn't do it.
No, I don't think he did either. It was speculated that their marriage was not as happy as it had been reported. Because to be fair, we're only going based off reports at the time. In the absence of a motive, it was suggested that the general had a lover. So basically, he was killing, he wanted to remarry and he needed to bump her off. But there's, again, no evidence of it. So it's more like a hearsay sort of thing. And that was completely thrown out as a motive in the end. It was then suggested, and this is where it gets like, obviously, I feel like it's just one person throwing out lots of the same thing. It was then suggested that Carolyn was the one having the affair and that the Major General shot her after finding out.
I don't believe that.
No, I don't either. This is where suspect number 3 comes along. Okay. It's another loved one.
I thought I was going to say another Charles.
No. This came a few years later, and it suggested that the murder was carried out by a man called John Dickman. There are some absolutely brilliant names in this. We've had Cock and Dick. I need to grow up. Right. He was executed in 1910 for the murder of a man called Nesbitt. So,
First name Nesbitt.
It just listed as Nesbitt. So that's it. Nothing else.
Nesbitt.
Now this next name, fucking hell, it's a mouthful. Sir Sidney Orme Rowan Hamilton.
Oh, I think they're well to do, yes.
Sorry if there's any of his relatives still alive. Possibly is. No, it's fine. He sounds like a posh twat. Right, claimed that Dickman I'm such a child. He claimed that Dickman murdered Caroline after he'd advertised in the Times for financial help, and that Caroline had sent him a cheque for an unknown amount. Dickman had then committed fraud by amending the cheque's value, and that Caroline had discovered this. After writing to him, Caroline arranged a meeting with him, but without informing her husband. So that's like suggesting she's kind of going behind his back.
Yeah.
Whether that could be because she realised she made a mistake and her husband would be angry, so she tried to cover it up. Or is she doing something sneaky? Or maybe her husband doesn't... Maybe I feel like the husband would have declared it if he knew.
Yeah. Or does he need to know?
I don't know. I feel like then still men are very much in charge of the money. Like she might be in charge of the household, but...
True.
That's it. So was she a bit scared that maybe she'd lost some of his money? I don't know. Possible theory out there.
Maybe.
Anyway, it was then said that Dickman met her and killed her. Hamilton believed that the trial against Dickman was a conspiracy by the general's friend, so the guy who committed suicide, and that they ensured his conviction for a murder he may not have committed because of a murder they were certain he had. So basically they're saying he might not have killed that Nesbitt guy, but they... in themselves, all the major generals felt like he did kill Caroline, so they couldn't get him for that, but they could, I don't know, I suppose, make some evidence to say he's killed this other person. So it's sort of like, okay, you didn't actually commit this murder, but you're gonna go for
away for something.
Yeah, be hung for it, basically. To me, that kind of seems unlikely as a thing. There obviously is records of his fraud, and he's obviously got a bit of a sketchy past, but. I'm not convinced that's
There's no link there.
Yeah. For me, this is again where it's a genuine mystery because I don't really feel like there is a suspect. I feel like I don't know as though it is a one of opportunity.
No, they're just throwing names in there because they have no clue.
I feel like it was premeditated enough. So I feel like it does have to be someone she knows.
Yeah.
I just feel like this person might have covered their tracks so very well
that they
never
idea.
Appeared as a suspect.
But I do not think it's Charles.
No, it's definitely not Charles.
No,
I don't think either one of them was having an affair, and that's what I think. That was just something that was bandied about.
Yeah, of course.
Because
obviously there's gonna be someone's murdered. Why were they murdered?
Yeah,
they're having an affair. Someone's having an affair.
And this was it. And the whole robbery thing. I suppose it could have been robbery at gunpoint.
Yeah. But like you said, where she is, you're not gonna know about it unless you walk that.
But that's it. So I feel like if
it's someone in the
village,
was
targeting her personally,
you
would have also done robbery at gunpoint at the house. There's far more valuables, which
exactly.
then does kind of contradict what I said earlier about it not being one of opportunity. Because if you're going to randomly pick her, then maybe it would be a case of you just passed her. She looks affluent. I'm going to rob her.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know. I don't feel like it's a seasonal workers.
No, because then that's just because they're poor.
I feel like maybe someone that held a grudge against her. She might have been even completely unaware that this person held a grudge against her.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because they could be really close friends, but she's not aware that friend has some animosity towards her.
Obviously, I suppose you've got to look at it in the sense of I couldn't really find out much about the Wilkinsons, them as a family, and their staff. But I feel like they're all possible suspects. Technically, it's on their land.
Yeah, of course.
If anyone's got the perfect opportunity to do it, it's someone there.
Yeah. Did you say there was 3 gunshots?
Yes.
But 2 only here?
Yeah. So there was nothing about a stray bullet, but then open field.
True. But it's not a field, though. The way I
imagine Heather and Bracken, to me, the way I sort of imagine it, it's there's the woodland
with hedges.
No. There's woodland along the edge, so it's on the field on the edge of the woodland. So but depending on which way she was shot at, it could have gone out into open field.
Yeah, but you can't see the summer house.
The summer house is tucked behind.
That's what I'm saying. They can't see it. So I thought there was some hedges.
No, it's just the summer house, and then there's woodland. Yeah, okay. And then the rest of the field is open with bracken and heather.
Okay.
So depending on which direction they shot her from, if the way they've shot her is then out into open space, you're not going to find that.
No.
So in that sense, I don't know. It's hard because there's not really any evidence. Which that's basically why it's gone unsolved, isn't it? Because it's not. I still even the generals. I feel like I know people back then, the police did cover up a lot of stuff, and they probably just wanted a conviction. It was easier, conveniently get someone for a murder. But I feel like it's a bit far fetched for all the generals to be part of a conspiracy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a bit of a sad one. I definitely don't think the husband.
Oh yeah, I don't like this one. This one's sad. I'm still kind of like,
I did
I'm gonna
warn
cry.
you.
I know, but God, as soon as she said that line, tears came out. I was just like, don't look at me, I'm gonna cry.
I know, even like I said, I don't really get like emotional by that sort of thing, but even when I was reading the letter, I was like, oh no. It is actually a bit sad.
It is sad. I'm kind of like underwhelmed. Not underwhelmed. I'm sad. I'm feeling very
I feel
sad.
like I wanted to be able to solve this one a bit more because it's a bit
Yeah.
sad. Like, I kind of wanted an ending for it, but I can't really offer a reasonable one up. Like, I feel like I've more opened up more questions. I would have liked to see why people in the Wilkinson family weren't considered more, because I know a lot of it, they often go to the staff, don't they? But it was that thing about the summer house being locked up over the summer. I don't know. There was just something about that. It didn't sit right with me.
Yeah. The only way it would be locked up for the summer if that family is not there.
Yeah, if they travelled away.
Yeah. But then why have a summer house if you're going to travel away for the summer? Well, I'm not rich, so I don't have...
Yeah, we go for everyone.
I have a summer house. I have a winter house.
Yeah. So, I don't know. It's a bit of an odd one. I suppose it could be anyone in the village, really. They're obviously well known.
I'm thinking it's someone in the village.
I feel like it's got to be premeditated.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I don't think it was just like you just stumbled across on it.
You're like, oh, I like that summer house. Oh, I'm going to rob that woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would have had to know what sort of time.
Exactly.
Or if not, you would have had to lay in wait for ages.
Yeah.
Because I feel like even though obviously that couple, like obviously the Major and his wife had permission to cross that land, I don't feel like it would have been permission that everyone was given. So I don't think it was like a right of way.
No.
Like, I think it crossed over other bridle paths, but I don't think everyone would have had access, especially not across the Wilkinsons' land. I feel like everyone else would have been expected to travel round.
Yeah.
So if you were going to lie and wait for them there, I don't think she would have been shot there. I think she would have been shot somewhere else.
Yeah, and why would you shoot someone on your own land and then just leave them?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tricky one, isn't it? I don't think there's really an answer to this.
There's not. This is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's just... Oh.
I want to say, like, you can cheer me up with yours now, but it's a murder, so...
No, mine's also in a field.
Oh no, was it with Charles and Fields?
And hedgerow, and there's a man with an amazing name.
Oh, okay. We've got some good names in this episode. Okay, right. Are you ready for yours?
Have you ever heard of the unsolved witchcraft murder that shook Britain?
I haven't.
Okay.
I like the fact that it's just witchy one. I'm quite pleased. We've delved into this already.
Yeah, I didn't think I've heard of it, but looking into it when I was doing some research, I think I have heard of it from another podcast.
Oh, okay.
I just can't remember which podcast.
You might have heard the names and crossed over. You just don't remember the case necessarily.
Because I don't think... To me, it has nothing to do with witchcraft.
Oh, okay.
It's just someone thought of something and then that just got thrown in with it.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it has nothing to do with witchcraft, in my opinion.
Okay, we'll see.
Okay, my Charles. Charles Walton was born 12th of May 1870 to Charles and Emma Walton. And he lived in Little Quinton in Warwickshire, England. There's so many Charleses.
I think it's just a very popular name of the time,
Charles.
isn't it?
Charles.
And then like Charles II.
Charles III.
Charles Jr.
Yes, Walton was described as something of a loner who earned a reputation as a trainer of horses in his youth.
Oh,
so I thought
I quite like this guy.
Yeah, kind of like...
I like horses.
Yeah, I thought you might like him. It said he didn't socialise much with his neighbours, but he wasn't disliked at all.
Okay.
He's a nice man.
So just sort of kept himself to himself.
Yeah. He was also seen as an unusual fellow. It says fellow, so I was like, I'll call him a fellow. He also bred natterjack toads in his garden, which we'll circle back to later. And also tamed wild dogs with just his voice. Now, this could be hearsay, village gossip, especially after he's been murdered, and it links to the witchcraft element.
Oh, I see where we're going with the toads thing now.
Yeah, natterjack toad as well. What
one of those? I need to have a look now.
I feel like they just natter a lot. That's why they're called natterjacks.
Oh yeah, maybe then like
they
noisy
ribbit
toads.
They ribbit a lot.
Loud.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I believe Walton adopted his niece Edith a few years before his wife died in 1927, and then he raised her alone in the home they shared until she was 30 something.
Okay.
Until his death.
Right. Okay.
So it was just him and Edith.
Okay.
Because his wife died.
Oh.
Yeah. Which I thought was kind of sweet that he never remarried or anything.
I think that was quite a thing of the times, though.
I guess.
You went one way. You were either like that, you had one wife and then never remarried because you're so sad, or you had
have 7.
100.
Yeah. Walton walked with a stick because of his rheumatic joints, but continued to work as a farmhand or sought casual farm work wherever he could. So for the final 9 months of his life, he worked for Alfred Potter at the fairs.
Okay. I'm following.
Okay. So on the 14th of February, 1945, Walton left home with his pitchfork and slashing hook.
Okay, yeah, to be fair, in those days, I think it's quite common to just carry your tools with you.
Yeah. So that's obviously Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a fact about Valentine's Day.
Oh.
So St. Valentine's is the patron saint of bees.
Oh.
Yeah, I thought that was quite nice.
I was not expecting that one.
No. So I think...
Out of all of the animals.
Yeah,
I don't know what animal I was going to think of, but that wasn't the one.
But I thought, for like the person you love, do something for bees on Valentine's Day.
Oh, okay, I like
it's
that.
It's a little different, I do.
For Galentine's Day next year.
Yeah. I get you something bee related.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so Valentine's Day. He was spotted passing through a local graveyard between 9 and 9:30 a.m.
Sorry, I've got images of the Grim Reaper in my head.
I mean, I guess.
Like, just go through a graveyard. Oh, please tell me he had like a black cloak and a hood.
Maybe, because it's Valentine's. It's going to be a little cold. So he's probably got a coat on.
I feel like now, after I said that, I feel like you're going to tell me it's because he was visiting his wife's grave.
No, he wouldn't be visiting his wife's grave with the slashing hook and pitchfork.
But he might be on the way to work.
He's on his way to work. He's going to work.
That's what I'm saying, but he might be stopping off to see his wife on the way.
No, I think the route just takes him through the graveyard.
Okay.
Well, I hope he wasn't visiting his wife.
Okay.
I hope he was, but not at that moment in time.
Okay.
9 a.m. to get to a field known as Hill Ground on the slopes of Meon Hill. So he was cutting hedges that day. So as a lonesome 74-year-old who stuck to his routine vigorously, Edith...
so he's not young.
No, he was born in 1870. This is 1945.
I don't know, in my head I'm still thinking he's like 40 or something.
No, he's...
Okay.
Yeah, so
he's a little old man. Why is he still working so much?
I guess he had to.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, he's got any support.
Yeah. Well, she's 30 years old at this point. She can support herself.
Yeah. Maybe she's waiting for a husband to come along.
That's another thing.
Oh.
I think we'll touch on that a little bit. I can't remember. We'll touch on that a bit later. So yeah, 74-year-old who stuck to his routine. Edith was expecting him home at 4 p.m.
Right, okay.
But this day she was working until 6 p.m. And then when she got home, she realised he wasn't there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Where's he gone?
So she went to their neighbours, who is Harry Beasley, who lived a few houses down. Together they made their way to the Firs to alert Alfred Potter. Okay.
So that's the guy he worked for, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Potter claimed to have last seen Charles earlier in the day, slashing hedges on Hill Ground. The three of them then set out in the direction of the spot where Charles had last been seen. And then they saw his body by the hedge grove.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Edith was obviously upset to see him like this, just sprawled out on the ground. So Edith tried to comfort her and keep her away from him. A local resident by the name of Harry Peachy. Harry Peachy.
Sorry.
Oh no.
Well, you know what Peachy's referred to?
Peachy? It's like dicks and arses in there.
A dick, cock, peach. Just need some tits now.
Oh, we had that in the other episode. Breast.
Oh yeah, breast.
Boobies. Okay. Harry Peachy was walking on the other side of...
Sorry, I've got the giggles.
It's an episode full of cocks and asses. Okay. I'm going to say it one more time. Harry Peachy was walking on the other side of the hedgerow.
Right.
As all the commotion was going on. So Potter called to him and directed his attention to the body and told Peachy to go to alert police.
Okay.
So it's just Alfred, Harry Beasley and Edith, while Mr. Peachy has left to go get police. Some details might be a little... I'm going to talk about his wounds.
Okay.
The murderer had beaten Walton over the head with his own stick, slit his throat with his slashing hook, which was embedded into his throat.
Ooh.
And then his body was pinned to the floor with a protruding pitchfork, and the prongs stuck either side of his throat, pinning him to the ground. There's some reports of him having a cross cut into his chest, but that can't be verified.
Okay.
Harry Beasley then took Edith back down the hill, I assume to one of their homes,
Mm-hmm.
to try and calm her down. Potter waited with the body alone, which I thought was a bit suspicious.
I don't know. I suppose in those times, if there's only a couple going, if someone's got to stay, because they don't want to leave it and then someone else discover it.
True.
Be like, has anyone been alerted to this murder?
True. But also, can you imagine being the only one left?
Like, you know, when you waited to meet your friend. Like, I'm just waiting with a dead body.
Oh my god.
So instead of like luggage. Be like, you're alright. Yeah, just waiting with this.
Oh, god.
Wait for me, mate, to get back.
You're like, I didn't do it. I'd be so... Because, like, you're going to look suspicious if you stood there alone with the dead body. You're going to look suspicious if you leave it.
Maybe he stood like a little bit away, so like
That's
he was
still
still
gonna...
within the vicinity. No, but like, I don't know what it is in those times, but like...
How do you stand? What do you do with your hands? Like, are you going to
in your
fidget?
pocket?
You can't stand with your pocket because
I
that's
sort
so
of turn my
relaxed.
back to it, so I'm not. It's like I'm stood there like staring at the body.
Yeah, but then you're turning and you're back on it. The murderer could come up behind you and murder you.
It's in a field, isn't it? Like
It's in a
along the
field.
hedgerow. So I'd like to think maybe I could hear him walking through the grass.
I don't know. I'm going to
Or
be
I would
doing...
hope the murderer is clever enough to have ran away by now.
I'm doing 360s all the time. Like, God, get me. I'd be so nervous. If you hear a leaf drop or smush or crap, crunch.
Yeah, something rustle.
Yeah,
in the
something
bush.
rustle. I'm going to be like, nope.
Okay. So I'm just thinking of me now, like waiting for you to pick me up from somewhere. Like, just casually got a dead body next to me. Yeah, I'm just waiting for the police to come.
It reminds me of something else. But but like, as like I said, it's a little suspicious, but also not. I wouldn't want to be the person waiting.
Yeah, I feel like they couldn't have left it, but maybe he'd sort of seen that thing before, so he wasn't like, not that he's accustomed to it, but like maybe it didn't freak him out as much.
Sure, it is 1945. They've probably been in
After
the war.
It's in the war still.
1945 just ended. Oh, how old is he? I think he's only 40 something. He might have fought in the war.
Yeah, quite possibly. It's either that or would have been kept behind for farming.
Yeah. True. But still.
I don't feel like farmers are that easily spooked. Yeah, I feel like, it's like someone's got to take responsibility. I feel like I could do it.
Oh yeah, you could do it.
Like,
Because I'm running away. I'm like, no, I can't deal with the dead body.
Yeah, so you'd have to comfort, is it Edith? And then, you'd probably have to take her back. And I'd be like, it's all right, I'll wait with the body till someone comes back. And then if anyone stopped me, I'd be like, yeah, someone's been... I don't know, I'd just say, yeah, someone's really been alerted. I'm just waiting for the police to come. I was like, I wanted to wait, because if you...
You're braver than me.
Yeah, I don't think... Well, they're dead. They're not going to do anything to you, are they?
No, I'm not on about them. I'm on about the person who did the... pinning them to the ground with a pitchfork.
Yeah, I know, but I suppose in my head I wouldn't be worried about them coming back. I'm thinking they're a bit of a twat to come back straight away and then try and murder someone else, aren't they?
True, but maybe that's bait.
Possibly.
Maybe, I don't know.
But then why didn't they kill them when there was I suppose a group of them outnumbered, possibly.
True.
But I don't think I think I could do what Pi did. I think I could stay there, dead body. I don't think it bothered me.
It's because you want to murder people.
Maybe.
Okay. The first policeman on the scene was PC James Lemazney, who arrived at 7:05 p.m. Stratford-upon-Avon CID arrived later in the evening. Professor James M. Webster of West Midlands Forensic Laboratory.
That's a mouthful.
I know. West Midlands Forensic Laboratory arrived at 11:30 p.m. So that's a big gap.
Yeah, okay.
The body was removed at 1:30 a.m.
To put us down there the whole time.
No. Yeah. I think he was relieved.
Imagine he's now like a scarecrow.
I think he's relieved at 7:05.
Okay.
Or maybe not. At 11 p.m. on the 14th of Feb, Detective Inspector Toombs took a statement from Potter. So 11. So he's still there.
I mean, he's only got stand there like a scarecrow, so. I'm sorry. I've got images of like a crow coming to peck the dead guy's eyes out, and he's like,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm very distracted you from your case. It's really bad.
Potter had known Walton for about 5 years, and he had an alibi for the time of the murder. Potter stated that he had been in the College Arms with Joseph Stanley, a farmer of White Cross Farm, until noon that day. He had gone straight across a small field adjoining hill ground and saw Walton working about 500 to 600 yards away. He noticed Walton had about 6 to 10 yards of hedge left to cut that day. And then when he found the body later, there was 4 additional yards being cut. So that's about half an hour's work.
Okay.
Half an hour's worth of work. So he's probably been murdered about 12:30.
Okay, yeah.
That's what they're working on. Obviously, it's a complex case because there's not much evidence.
Yeah.
Local police decided to get more help involved from Scotland Yard quite early on. So on the 16th of Feb, Chief Inspector Robert Honey Fabian, he would be a good one to do a case on because I'll talk about it in a minute. So yeah, Fabian and his partner, Detective Sergeant Albert Webb, arrived to assist in the investigation. So Fabian sounds a little dreamy to me. It's Honey Fabian. This investigation is his final case before he retired. Okay. And in this day and age in 1945, he's quite a celebrity as a detective. People think he's like the reincarnation of Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, okay.
So I think he'd be amazing to do a case on.
I feel like he's like an air of like mysterious.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he can solve anything.
Okay.
But this final case, he never solves.
Oh, I mean, that would be a bit annoying.
It's annoying.
I feel like I couldn't retire until I've done that.
No. But yeah, he'd be amazing to do in a case on.
Okay.
Honey Fabian.
Okay, note him down.
No, I have. He's in my book. So yeah, Fabian and his partner Webb arrived. Later that day, Detective Sergeant Saunders of Special Branch, who was fluent in Italian, also arrived. Okay. That's important to do with the war and the Italians who are prisoners of war in the area.
Yeah.
So Lemazny suspected Potter and asked officers to keep an eye on him and his wife Lillian.
Okay.
I don't know why he thinks he's suspicious. I think it's just because he's his employer.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. And he's been there, seen a crime, so at the time it's probably all I've got to go on, isn't it?
I mean, I thought he was suspicious too because he was willing to stand with the body, but yeah, okay. Okay. Sergeant Saunders was called in for his bilingual skills because of obviously the Italian prisoners of war who were held in Long Marston. On the afternoon of the day of the murder, some of the prisoners had gone into Stratford to see a play, while others had visited the cinema. However, it doesn't appear that any of the Italians were ever seriously considered to have killed Walton.
Okay.
So that's just side note. Professor Webster's postmortem on Walton found that his trachea had been cut and that he had bruising to his chest and several broken ribs.
So maybe like stamped on?
Possibly?
Maybe. I feel like maybe like... In my head, I'm sort of thinking, the pitchfork is been like stabbed in over his neck, but holding down a foot on his chest.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's what I'm sort of imagining.
He has defensive wounds on his left hand, bruises on the back of his right hand and forearm.
So maybe he also had his arm sort of stamped on, like he's, for one thing, sort of protect his face.
Yeah.
But also he's like tried to push the other guy back. Like if he's tried to stamp on his chest, maybe like grabbed his leg, tried to push him off.
And it's like a 74-year-old man. How could you do that?
He might surprise you. He might be quite sprightly.
Yeah, exactly. Webster also concluded had been caused by 2 weapons, a stabbing weapon and a cutting weapon, presumably the pitchfork and slashing hook, seeing as they were embedded in him.
Yeah.
He had also obviously been hit over the head with his walking stick, which was found 3.5 yards from his body, with blood and hair stuck to it.
I'm sorry, how's he doing that work with a walking stick?
I don't know.
Because you need like both hands for that, to do that sort of job. So what's he balancing on?
I think he obviously just needs it for walking.
Oh,
and
long
when
distance,
yeah. So,
you can probably do a few steps.
Yeah. And slashing is different.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah. I don't know, but yeah. It was determined he died between 1 and 2 p.m. So it's a little later than what
you think.
Yeah. If Potter saw him like 12:30. No, sorry, 12:30. No, he saw him about 12, 12:30. Half an hour worth of work. And then murdered.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The attack's got to happen, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And especially if it's proper fire, it's not going to be instantaneous, is it?
This bit is weird. His shirt's been opened and his trousers are unfastened.
Oh.
Yes.
Which, like, if it's a woman, you'd say, like, definitely a sexual motive.
Yeah.
But I suppose the only other way that could happen is if he did try to rob him. Or maybe he believed he had something of, like, the murderer believed that he had something of his and has tried to, like, check all his pockets, like, strip his clothing to see if he's concealing it.
True,
maybe.
But you wouldn't take the trousers off.
Unless that's just happened as he's trying to unbuckle everything. If he's, like, ripped the top over, maybe it's, like, caught his top button or something. True. I don't know. I'm just thinking how it could possibly happen.
Webster's report also doesn't mention the cross that has been supposedly engraved, but that's in later reports. Police were hoping to find fingerprints on his walking sticks. However, Potter said he grabbed it while walking up to the body before he actually saw the body.
Okay.
So this obviously made Potter look suspicious, but Fabian, who I love, has ruled him out.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, just because he's picked up his walking stick doesn't automatically mean he's murdered someone.
Fabian then followed reports by Edith, Walton's niece. She stated that she had never heard Walton say he had ever lent anyone any money or any IOUs, but his bank revealed that he had deposited £227.10 in June in 1930, but by 1939 this had dwindled down to £11.11.
Oh, that's a lot of money.
Yes.
So, like, in today's time, I guess that's like a few grand.
Yeah. I didn't work it out.
What's he got to show for it?
Yeah, so he never has any more withdrawals than like £10 at the time. So it's like, where's the money gone?
Right, yeah, okay. What's he spent it on?
Yeah. This bit I don't like.
Oh no.
It's just, it's out of field. There's no point to bringing it up. But
Is it just someone throwing it in there?
Yeah.
Sort of?
Fabian's investigations also led to Walton's best friend, who was a 72-year-old.
Oh, God.
George Higgins of Fairview, Lower Quinton. So he's in Higher Quinton, he's in Lower Quinton. Although the pair had not seen each other since the previous Christmas.
Oh.
However, he doubted that the old man would have had the strength to mount such an attack or a sufficient motive. Like, of course he's not going to murder his best friend.
Like, I feel like they're all going to, like, die, like, from bowls or something. Like, like, tripped him over, like.
Again, police looked back into Potter. Still, his alibi is rock solid.
Okay.
There was no leads, no suspects. Now, there's a little contradiction with the story, and this is obviously the witchcraft part. Some reports I read, I took it that witchcraft was mentioned early on to the investigation.
Okay.
Others said it didn't enter until years later.
Okay.
But this murder is the moment witchcraft made it into the daily newspapers, according to the BBC, now out of print, 1971 documentary, The Power of the Witch.
Oh.
I want to watch that.
Yeah, so do I.
But it's out front. So.
Oh. Why can't we find it?
I don't. Well, we might be able to find it. Might be on YouTube or somewhere.
Yeah, we're going to have a look for that.
Yeah, we'll Google it.
I need to watch it.
So, Lower Quinton subsequently gained a new level of media attention, and the newspapers relished in turning the story of Walton's death into an Agatha Christie-style murder mystery about backward-thinking, sun-god worshipping rural folk. Salacious headlines about human sacrifice were abound, and the local Coventry Telegraph referred to the case as a whodunit witchcraft murder.
Okay. The witchcraft thing, I'm not convinced.
No.
I feel like if it's going to be like a sacrificial sort of thing, he's got to be like, not in a stereotypical ring, but I feel like it's a bit of an odd position. It's not like he's around some burnt things and other animals. It's just in a hedge side.
There's reports that the year before the crops were bad, so then someone's like, oh, this is why it happened. I think I touch on it later.
I thought, don't they need like virgins or something?
I think it's just human sacrifice.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it matters. Okay.
I didn't know if, like fertility of the ground and
maybe
sort of
but stuff. I think blood,
any blood
virgin, yeah. The then 87-year-old Margaret Murray, who is the author of the popular but much maligned The Witch Cult in Western Europe, a study in anthropology, believed the Walton murder was likely a ritual act performed with the purpose of replenishing the soil.
Okay.
Explains Darren Charles, who is from the Folk Horror Revival Project, which sounds interesting.
So quite a few of these are worth looking into, I think.
That's what I thought. There's so many things. There's films linked to this case as well.
Oh, I quite like this. Okay. I know, movie night.
Yeah, we should do this. Although this might sound far-fetched as a motive for murders, Charles says it was much more logical in the context of the time.
Oh.
1945. I
don't feel like that witchcrafty.
No, I don't. No, me neither.
I feel like it died about that time, and then it's only sort of come back now in like the last 20 years because we're sort of like, our generation's like revived it.
Yeah, because I had to like go back. I was like, what year did this happen? Because I was just like, no, the war. No, I don't think anyone's thinking. Okay, the Nazis were looking into witchcraft and stuff a little bit.
But I don't associate it with that time period.
No, I don't. Yeah, context of the time of a remote region reconnecting with its ancient superstitions amid the dread and fears of World War II. To some locals, unsure of the future, looking backwards and outside of the Christian church for philosophical guidance was far more appealing. That makes sense, but I don't know. I think they're a little bit busy being bombed. I don't think they're going to try and sacrifice an old man to some god.
Yeah, and wouldn't you want, I feel like, the blood of a healthier person that...
I don't think that matters.
Yeah, if you want your crop to do well, I feel, I don't know, they need like fresh young blood. I don't imagine
like
a little old man.
I think blood is blood, but I don't know. So, even more context for the witchcraft element. Near to where his body was found is the Rollright Stones, which is an ancient stone monument, and the Burl Hill Iron Age fort, which gives the whole region a sense of being ancient, magical and strange, says Charles.
Oh, so they're sort of saying it's more like the area in which it's happened sort of like has links with witchcraft and is like possessed by witches. Yeah. So it's more the power of the land has taken him then.
Yeah.
Okay. So I kind of get where the stories came from.
I do and I don't.
I get it, where it's come from. Like, now you've explained that a bit more, it makes a bit more sense where the witchy kind of thing came from, but I'm not convinced that
I'm not. So, obviously, the case remains unsolved, giving it a certain mystique to filmmakers and arguably acting as a nucleus for the blooming folk horror genre. David Pinner's 1967 novel Ritual was loosely based on Walton's murder. So, we've got a book. When it was adapted into 1973 the cult classic The Wicker Man, it traces all the way to the 2019 Midsummer film as well.
Oh, okay.
And in 2001, which I've not heard of, In the Earth.
Oh no, I've not heard of that.
No, I've not heard of that. So that's another film related loosely to
that's maybe one for us to watch.
Murder. Yes, we should do.
It might give us some inspiration as to who the murderer might have been.
I don't think there's any suspects. They rule everyone out.
Yeah, I don't think it was Potter either. I know he touched the walking stick, but I don't think...
But like, you're going to just see the man laying on the ground. You're probably not going to see the pitchfork sticking out of his throat at, 6-7 o'clock at night?
Because what time of year was it again? February. Oh yeah, no, not that time. It's dark.
Yeah, exactly.
So how did they even find him? His brother didn't just trip over it.
Probably moonlight? Maybe they have a lantern?
If there's no light pollution, it is a little bit lighter that time. And if you've had like a snowy sort of time around then, like, the sky's a bit lighter, isn't it? I don't know. I feel like, could it not have been any other farm workers?
Maybe. I don't remember who else is suspects. Oh, I do stumble upon some more suspects, but I honestly don't think they've named anyone who is the culprit.
Hence why it's gone unsolved,
yes.
I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know as though robbery is a thing. I feel like that's far too... Like,
it's not robbery.
No, it's just a popular thing. Maybe someone... this sounds a bit like gruesome. Maybe like someone that's like had ideas of murdering someone's never done it before. So like they've picked like an easy target. Like, someone that like they need someone to practice on.
It's a little overkill though.
I know, but maybe they like really got into it.
True.
And then like that would explain why it's a random person. They've just saw a weak looking person. So like in a weird way, it's sort of a crime of opportunity. Because the victim, it's not like they've gone for a big, strong man. Like, I feel like he's still got a level of strength if he's working that hard at that age.
Yeah.
But in comparison to someone in the 20s and 30s, they're going to put up a hell of more of a fight.
Yeah.
And they're probably not going to be as easy to kill.
Yeah.
I mean, you could argue it with a man of that age that he could have actually been killed by a woman. She, like a young woman. Another woman that worked on the farm. Has got the same strength.
That's a good idea.
Because...
Still overkill, though.
It is overkill, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know how active this old man was, but could he have had a lover that he's pissed off?
Hence the unbuttoning of the trousers.
Yeah, I imagine like a plump, large lady that's worked on a farm and I don't know, he's pissed her off. Not agreed to marry her or something. And she's got a bit angry about it and, he's probably arguing. I don't know, he might call her an old cow or something and she got a bit pissed off. She just, took it a bit too far.
Maybe.
I mean, it's not impossible, is it? So
true. No, it's not true.
You might as well throw that out there.
Yeah.
It's not been disproved.
The 2 reports that Fabian wrote on the case in 1945, which are preserved in the police file, mention no mention of witchcraft, ritualistic killings, black dogs, natterjack toads, or blood sacrifices.
Right, okay.
But 25 years later, he wrote the following. I advise anybody who is tempted at any time to venture into black magic, witchcraft, shamanism, call it what you will, to remember Charles Walton and to think of his death, which was clearly the ghastly climax of a pagan rite. There is no stronger argument for keeping as far away as possible from the villains within their swords, incense, mumbo jumbo. It is prudence on which your future peace of mind and even your life could depend. End quote. It has been claimed that Fabian was acquainted with 2 pieces of local history. The first related to the murder of Anne Tennant by James Hayward on the grounds that she was a witch. She was supposed to have been murdered similarly to him, but there's nothing that's like she was just murdered in a field. There's nothing like connecting the two. They're years apart. There's no. It was thought she was killed with a pitchfork, but she wasn't.
Okay.
I think they're just
possible similar style murder, possible similar.
Yeah, but there's
weapon,
nothing. There's nothing to do with it. I think they're just assuming she was killed with a pitchfork because she's a witch, or therefore a witch. Okay.
So and he makes a good story.
Villain, yeah, she's a villain. You kill villains with pitchforks.
Okay.
So that's the only thing. So obviously Fabian took it upon himself to research the possible links to the occult. He himself claimed to have seen a black ghost dog in the area, and a black dog was seen found hanged by its collar in a bush near where Walton's body was found.
But is that not just someone else killing someone else's poor black dog to, like, give the story some credit? Like the whole witchcraft thing, that's saying, like, oh no. I feel like it's, when you're a kid and, like, there's the older kid that tells you the spooky story and they go, oh yeah, so they're like, this happened. Yeah. And then you see something similar, you're like, oh my God, it was real.
Also, because maybe they're also, whoever did it is playing into the fact that there's a stranger. And they're like, they know he's looking into something strange, so they're like, oh, I'm going to do this.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that is probably like sort of kids taking the piss.
Yeah. I completely forgot about the dog being hanged, so I should have like pre-warned. I was just reading it and I was like, oh no. Well, obviously this is linked. While this could be linked to suspicious townsfolk executing poor domestic pets over fears of evil familiars, obviously.
Okay.
And it was the black dog was allegedly found on the time of Lupercalia, which is February 15th, a Roman festival where dogs were sacrificed to ensure good harvest.
Oh.
Which I've never heard of that.
No, I've never heard of that before.
I may have mispronounced that because I forgot to look that up. Obviously, in the BBC documentary I mentioned earlier, The Power of the Witch, Walton's own niece described what was reported in the press as witchcraft as being ridiculous, and none of it was true. Yeah,
she's probably looking for like someone to actually convicted.
Not some like, oh, it's so spooky.
She was like, I actually want you to convict someone else. Like, can you please just get on with it?
There's apparently a famous witch named Gerald B. Gardiner debunked Fabian's claim in his memoir, Fabian of the Yard, that the murder took place close to the Stone Druid Circle of the Whispering Knights.
Oh, wow,
which
that
sounds
that.
amazing. And that Walton had been killed on Valentine's Eve for the harvest. Everything's really linked to Valentine's.
Okay.
I think it's just a coincidence it's on Valentine's.
Okay.
I don't think there's any...
Yeah, I don't think it was that day picked specifically, unless we go back to my plump lady.
Well, she's in the mood.
Yeah. And the little old man said no.
Gardiner also pointed out several other frankly preposterous claims by an unknown woman of Walter being killed in a black mass at midnight, even though his body was found after midday.
Okay.
And 13 people dancing around in a circle around his body.
Okay, like a ritual sort of style thing.
Which wouldn't leave much room to like dance in a circle around his body.
Yeah, he'd be in the hedge.
It would be in the hedge, yes. Sorry, I
just thinking someone like shoving someone else through a bush.
Yeah, there's a note on pitchforks here. It's what I was linking to earlier. In his 1906 book, Warwickshire, the Land of Shakespeare, Clive Holland pointed the use of pitchforks and being used to kill witches. So that's, I think that's like the one and only link.
Okay.
Mostly to witchcraft being involved.
So it's like another one of those cases where people can't solve stuff, so they're just throwing any old sort of accusation out there.
So obviously, whatever the circumstances, Charles Walton was clearly murdered by someone because he's not going to be able to do all that to himself. And the way he was killed, like I said, it's overkill.
Yeah, I do.
It's overkill. So I assume would it be someone he knows?
I feel like it's quite a personal thing to do.
It is.
Like the
Especially
way it's attacked. It's not like he's just casually stabbed.
Yeah, throat.
Like they've gone to quite a lot of effort to sort of pin him down by the pitchfork.
Yeah.
Quite possibly, I feel like he got those chest injuries from being stamped on, like held down by someone's foot.
Yeah.
I feel like it might have been quite a prolonged attack as well. So there's probably also a bit of wrestling. I feel like there might be some bit of like angry, not necessarily shouting, but like, I'm doing this to you because, and like, I feel like there was a reason behind it. It's not like a quick like stab and go.
It's going to take some time because you're doing different things. You're using two different weapons if it's one person.
That's what brings me back to that idea, thinking like maybe it's someone that had like a bit of a thirst for killing but like never had actually killed anyone before. So they're sort of, one, they picked a weak victim. Two, also, that's why so many things have been done. They're sort of like testing out what they like, if that makes sense.
Maybe, but also because it's after the war, they would have killed people in the war.
Yeah. Oh, quite possible.
So then they're so used to it. Maybe they were killing people in that way.
If you want to go that one, can I throw another one in there?
Yeah.
Maybe like going back to earlier how I mentioned the whole PTSD. Maybe this person was from the war, bit troubled, having some sort of terrors, just happened to be passing in the vicinity in the area.
Yeah.
Associate him like, I don't know, maybe have one of these sort of terrors.
Maybe thought he was German.
And attack him in the way they have.
Yeah.
Because they think like they're fighting for their own life. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a good theory. Because was it Potter, Edith? Edith reportedly had a partner who she was dating for years, but she lived with her uncle still, which I seems weird. Her father was still alive, but he was living a few miles away. It's not
a motive.
No. Obviously, was it just wrong place, wrong time? Links with soldier. Yeah. Could be.
Because like that, if it's something like that, I don't know exactly quite the extent of it, but I should imagine if they do something like that, it's maybe random. There's also a possibility, not that they've forgotten they've done it. Yeah. But like it's like a heat of the moment thing, like they might think...
They've not realised.
The extent of what they've done.
Yeah.
Could also be a drunk person that's kind of unaware of their actions. You know, like they've sort of then maybe like gone home, like drunkenly slept it off and just thought, that was a bad dream.
Yeah. It's a bit of this. There's blood all over me. This is why I think the murder of Charles Walton is still unsolved, obviously, and still intriguing 77 years later. So my sources are from Vice, Wikipedia, and Female First. Okay. See? All done. Second case down.
I know. I think we've had some, like, today's two cases are definitely both two that you really can't pin down a suspect. You know, before, like, there's like quite a few possible suspects, but you have one that you think it's more likely to be. Yeah. Whereas this, I genuinely don't think.
When I was like doing a little research, I thought maybe it would be Potter, but then I was like, no, because
I'm not convinced by him.
No.
I feel like that'd be too convenient.
Honey Fabian. I like Honey Fabian. I forgot his first name. It's probably Charles.
But yeah, no, I don't know. I don't think either of these. I don't know if they'd ever. But
it's weird they're both in a field. Both involve Charles.
maybe it's like a sign of the times. Maybe there is some weird conspiracy thing, or even witchcraft behind Charles. Maybe.
I
mean, they're about 20 years, or no, about 30 years apart, aren't they? So
yeah, I forgot about the maybe dead dog. I should have reread it before we began. It's just like, yeah, I'm just gonna.
Yeah, that's definitely, that is like the whole thing of like everyone through the phases can't have a black cat anymore because
witchcraft.
Might kill you.
Yeah,
bad luck. Yeah, I feel like that the whole dog thing, that's more probably like teenagers sort of like pranking everyone to scare like younger kids, or like, I don't know, really paranoid little old ladies.
But it also links with like Wicker Man and Midsummer. Like a stranger coming into the village.
Yeah.
The village is a little weird. They're probably gonna be extra weird.
And that's it. And I think it sort of plays into that. It makes for a good story.
Exactly.
Like that. And I think
it's gonna mess with the city man.
Yeah. But I think, again, that for the teenagers, it's a good way to get everyone a bit worked up and like, oh my goodness, what's going on? Because you know what kids are like, that they play into if they think they can add to the story.
I know, but don't kill a dog.
I don't know, yeah, but teenagers, depending on the ones, a bit, I don't know, dickheads.
Right, we've done it. Second episode down.
Yeah, so we'll, I don't know, are we going to go more crime ones for the third or?
My third one is going to be a conspiracy theory. There are deaths, maybe murders, but it's definitely a conspiracy.
Okay, so definitely a little bit different for episode 3.
Yeah, for me. Do you know what's yours? Is yours true crime?
I haven't decided yet.
Okay.
I have got a couple more true crime, but I've also got like an ancient one that I'm kind of working on. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's a bit of a mystery, so I might throw that one in there for the third episode.
Okay, I'm excited.
Yeah, I kind of want to do that one now for the third one. A bit different from what we've had.
Yeah. Bit of variety.
Yeah. Right, well, thanks for listening.
Yep. In the meantime, keep creeping.
And we'll keep digging.